Hello, and welcome to A Night with the Dark Knight, the show that takes a look at Batman through the ages, for better or for worse.
With your dynamic duo, Aidan Gula.
And me, George Ellis.
And tonight, we are giving a review of The Suicide Squad.
Yes.
Not Suicide Squad, The Suicide Squad. We're hot off the press with this one.
Mm-hmm. So,
at recording, but not at release.
Well, actually...
Because technically we're early recording this. It's not even out in America. But by the time it'll be out, this will be out in America.
Yes. So this is hot off the press for us. And
right now.
Yeah, but for you people listening and watching at home, it'll be lukewarm at best.
You've probably... We're currently recording this on the 31st of July, so it came out yesterday, and we are one of the first people to really see it. I don't know anybody else that has seen it yet.
Nope.
By the time this is out, most people I know will have seen it by then. So actually, it's maybe more of... Maybe it is better to release it when people have seen it. So they can go, oh, well, what did George... Rather than us go now, oh, I don't want to know. We'll do a little spoiler-free kind of initial thoughts at the start, and then we'll go right spoilers from now.
Okay, spoiler-free section, go now. Aidan, what did you think of the film?
Overall thoughts, the thing I'm going to say most whenever anybody asks me, did you like The Suicide Squad, the thing I'm going to say is, yeah, I really liked it. I didn't love it though. I think that's kind of my general take on this film. Is it pretty good? Better than the last one. It's probably my favorite DCEU film. In fact, no, it is my favorite DCEU film.
I don't think it is. I don't think it's just the favorite DCEU film. It kind of just is the best DCEU film when it comes to what it is. But I would kind of agree with you. I really did enjoy this film. Loving it feels like a strong word, so it's hard to say I loved it, but I really, really enjoyed it. You know, that's kind of where I'm sitting with this. And I would recommend it to most people I know. I came home after watching it. My parents said, "What did you watch?" I said, "The Suicide Squad." They said, "Was it good?" And I said, "Yes, I'll force you to watch it at some point." So that kind of sums up my feelings on the film.
I told a few people going, it's good, definitely go watch it. I think if you're a comic book fan, you have to watch it, really. Yeah, that's just generally how I feel about it. I saw somebody today said it's kind of like what would happen if Tarantino made a comic book film, and I can kind of see that. And I think that kind of, if you're interested in that kind of what if, I do think that kind of stands.
Yeah, it is definitely stylized. It can be over the top in places.
And it's funny. I've said to people that it's funny without going, we're making a joke now, which Marvel kind of, I know the whole thing about this podcast is you're the DC fan, I'm the Marvel fan. That's the whole shtick that we're going for here. As much as I love Marvel, in a lot of the MCU films, it is very much like, we're making jokes now, laugh. Whereas this was kind of making jokes, but I never felt it was going, this is funny now, besides from one scene at the start, which we'll say in a spoilery section. Besides that one scene, I don't think it ever did that.
It doesn't do a scene. Nice. Yeah, it doesn't go like, this is the funny section, laugh. Now we do the action section. It all felt very much intertwined. The film felt like it knew what it was. It felt like it knew it was the Suicide Squad, and it's using all these F-list characters with a couple of A-listers, and it's doing what it knows it can do. It can be funny. It can be a bit lighter. It can be darker in places. It wasn't trying to turn itself into something which it isn't. It knew what it was. It knew the tools it could. It knew what the tools it had were capable of creating. You know, what can this F-list character do?
Not much.
No. So they show it. It's
but this one can.
Yeah. It's. I think.
What can these two characters do? Exactly the same thing. But let's go off on that.
And I think it knowing what it is kind of because of the director's vision, because it did very much feel like it was James Gunn's film being a James Gunn film. So it was just all very focused, very streamlined.
Again, another thing I think I've said a few times about this film is it's unhinged James Gunn. like complete. It's James Gunn without any. You can tell there was probably only one character, which we'll come on to later. Probably only one character really where they've kind of maybe said we've got a plan for this person. Besides that, it felt very much like they just went, "Have you got an idea for Suicide Squad? Yeah, I have. Okay, do it then." He's going, "You're not gonna push back on anything? Nope. Do it. Do what you want." And I really like that. I really liked that as an idea. It's kind of like the same thing we were saying about Zack Snyder's Justice League. Whether or not I liked that film or not is one thing, but the fact I did like the way it is just them going, "Okay, do your thing,
Mm.
sure." And this is very much that kind of like, yeah, this is
Like
James Gunn's take on DC. Go for it.
even if I disagree with some of the choices in Zack Snyder's Justice League or James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, the fact he's been in both examples, they've been allowed to make that decision themselves, and they haven't had much pushback really. It does show in the film, and it shows that okay, I disagree with what you've done here, but it fits in the film and it fits with the rest of it, and it all works in this one film. Whether or not it fits for the wider DC universe, that's for someone else to kind of deal with sometimes. But it's for the one focused film, it works quite well. And I think it's
And that-
a sorry, Aiden.
Well, I was about to say, I was about to build on saying about you saying, you know what it knows what it is. And
Yeah.
I think something I came away from it going is DC does the kind of dark and miserable thing. But like
By the way, I like it.
there's only so many times we can kind of see that without it being like another grainy scene and it's raining and everybody is dark and it's nighttime and there's barely any lights and they're all wearing black and blah, blah, blah. It's like here we go again. And I think the original Suicide Squad film was taking a very silly kind of concept, as you can see really here. It's like it can generally it's just it's a very silly kind of all the villains come together and do this thing to fight a big thing. That's basically the same plot in both films.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you've got this kind of, it is more of a banded together kind of team, unlike somebody where it's like, we're the Justice League. This one's kind of just like, yeah, we're the Suicide Squad, whatever. And I think the original film was trying to do that and gave us these stylized posters and trailers and things. But then ultimately the film was just doing that same, it's DC and it's dark and it's miserable and everything's wet. And it was like, these two elements don't work together.
No.
Do one or the other. Do the stylized arty thing or do the we're DC. Don't do them both. And this one was just like, yeah, the weird DC has gone and we're just going to give you the full stylized thing. And I thought it's kind of giving us what the original promised, but doing it to a much better effect.
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, especially in the trailers for the original, which were very much Bohemian Rhapsody. It was this stylized over the top thing. And I really do enjoy the trailers for the first Suicide Squad film. And I think they represent a film we never got until now, in a way. It does, I agree with you. It feels like the first film is just them being, all right, we've got the Suicide Squad. Let's make this stylized thing based off to the comics. But we've got to set it in the DCEU, so let's make everything dark and dreary. It's again that trying to fit it in thing. It knew what it wanted to be, but it didn't accept itself. But in this film, in the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's, it knew what it wanted to be and it did it without trying to be something it isn't. And I think
Because
that's
I was literally I saw a list the other day and this wasn't even included on the DCEU like universe. Like it was in the same list as Joker and the Batman. And I thought, well, how have you worked that one out? Because you've literally got Harley, Boomerang, Rick Flag, and Waller in it, who are all in Suicide Squad. And they even reference it very loosely. They do reference it in this film by saying, yeah, we've worked together before. So I was like, well, how are you not including it in the DCEU then? But I think some people are just seeing it as it's very much its own thing, which it is essentially. And it doesn't really, it's saying, yeah, that film happened if you want it to have, but if you don't, then sure, you don't have to count it.
yeah. I like to think it is part of the DCU though, and I feel like it's a good direction for the DCU to take if they want to go that way, with kind of these standalone things which can connect, but you can bring these extra characters in and all that kind of stuff. And I think it being part of the DCU is important for it because it is this thing that builds off the mistakes of the previous DCU films. And I think it's important that it is, because it's a real kind of pilot light for the rest of the DCU if they want to keep this up. You look at what this film did. Don't look at DC. Please don't look at this and see, okay, we need to be funny. We need to be comedy. Don't look at it and see that. Look at it and see, we let the director and the creatives do what they wanted to do without getting involved too much. And we got this film that knew what it was. Just do that same kind of thing for the future.
I saw something once, and it was kind of a general thing. It was saying that Marvel kind of does the this is what we do, make one of these, whereas DC is kind of always represented. And you can kind of see the argument of even going back to like Tim Burton's Batman or Richard Donner's Superman and things like that. It's kind of always been the slightly more artier studio of the two, and they will kind of go, here's a film, but it's kind of like maybe more abstract, and it's not as just commercially produced as Marvel is. And I think really by trying to do the DCEU, they were trying to do that. Here's our package, here's what you get. And I don't think that really works for DC. They need to do here's a vibe, here's a genre, or here's a director and an aesthetic. This is what this film is. Is it part of that? If you want it to be. But generally, we kind of do these own distinct vibes.
The characters are there, and they've done the things you've seen them do, but they're now in a completely different situation. Same character, but reacting differently. It's very much how DC Comics work. I agree with you there, actually, because you can look at a Batman comic, and there are 100, I can pick up 4 Batman comics upstairs and I get a different genre. You've got romance if you've got a Harley and Ivy comic, and you've got kind of an action adventure comic with some of the New 52 Batman ones. But then if you go back a little bit, you've got horror with Batman Arkham Asylum. You've really got all these genres, same character, but just put in different genres. And I really think that's where DC needs to go. But all in all, with this film, I think it's I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a great stepping stone for what DC should do in the future.
Should be doing. Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. Yeah. So I think it's a step in the right direction, and I enjoyed it. But as we now move into the spoilery section, I can say, what about the film stopped me from loving it?
So if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it now. Or if you just want to ruin the film for yourself and you like us that much, stick around. Because this is the spoiler section.
Because I'm now, you've been warned, because I'm now going to say a spoiler right now.
Yeah.
Right. Now, 6 people die in the first 10 minutes. There we go. There's a spoiler for you. So you've had a warning.
I do love the way that section starts, though. It's this huge build-up, and then weasels just
because how many posters and merchandise and trailers we've had where it's built up. I got the impression from the trailers and things that beach scene was the final scene in the film. Because the way they kind of built it up, here's all of the squad on the beach. That to me was how the film was going to end. So then when we were starting on the beach, I thought, okay, we got really jumping straight in then. Are we maybe going to flash back? No. Okay. He's dead. Oh, now he's dead. She's dead. He's dead. He's dead. You've killed 6 of the squad already. And then one of them briefly came back. Pete Davidson was briefly in that prison scene. But other than that, they're dead.
I will say, I did kind of, from the trailers I saw, what I pieced together was that it was going to be 2 teams. Because if you look carefully, you never actually see Bloodsport with the other team. It did feel like that. So I did feel like that first team was going to die. I didn't expect them to die so easily. I thought that beach team would be the first one. But my God, did they just get taken out? It's not even you don't get time. You get time to attach a little bit in the helicopter, but it's you've got a lot of actors here who I feel like you're going to kill off. TDK, I do love Nathan Fillion, but my dude is just used as cannon fodder these days. And they just...
Yeah, but even that character, I kind of thought would have a bit more swear at him because of they've made a Funko Pop out of him. They made a real big deal out of it. James Gunn is really good friends with Nathan Fillion, and he kind of pops up in a lot of James Gunn things. And I kind of thought, it's like I don't know, it's like the Leonardo DiCaprio of Tarantino, for example. It's like, well, of course he's going to be in it. Like, it's Nathan Fillion. Of course he's going to be. Oh no, he's dead. He's dead. Really? Okay. Have they fallen out? He's dead. So that was kind of like that. And then I kind of like the way that you obviously got Michael Rooker in it as well, because people are going, oh, that's Yondu. A lot of people's introduction to Michael Rooker, I imagine, is Yondu.
Mine included.
Not mine, but
oh, look at me. I watch loads of films with Michael Rooker in.
No, not really. My introduction was, I think it might even. I'm just going to double check. I'm going to carry on talking, but I'm going to double check something, because I think it might have been another James Gunn film. But I completely lost my train of thought there. Yes, because it was starting with Michael Rooker. Again, this is that guy from Guardians of the Galaxy. He's going to have a major role, isn't he? And it's leading him in with, you're thinking this is going to be our voice forward. That's very much how the film led you in, with him being in the prison scene and then following Waller. And then when he's on the beach and then you're seeing everybody else die around him and he's escaping, and you think, oh, he will get away from this.
Well, not really escaping.
But then, well, yeah, very loosely escaping. He's trying to escape, but you kind of thought, okay, so he's going to be the guy to get away from the dead squad. But then you remember, but they do have the things in the back of their neck, yes. And nobody escapes the Suicide Squad.
No.
Kaboom. I mean, we've not said the deaths in the order that they appear, but to kill 6, I think I counted, I believe it is 6 people in the first 10 minutes.
Right, let's go through them. You got Javelin, TDK, Pete Davidson. No idea who he was playing, actually.
It was like Blackguard or something, wasn't it?
I think it was like Blackguard or something. Pete Davidson.
No idea what his powers were.
Weasel technically dies, but he isn't actually dead.
Yeah, I'm going to count it because it is treated as a death.
Yes.
But then, obviously, by the end, we find out it's not a death. Yes. But I'm going to count it.
Yes. Captain Boomerang.
Captain Boomerang.
I'm quite sad about that one because I did like Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang. And
Mongal,
actually. That's because Mongol.
He's from Mongolia.
Mongal, and
I believe that's the 6. I can't think of who have we said.
What's his name?
Javelin, TDK. Oh, 7 then. TDK, Javelin, Pete Davidson, Mongol, Weasel, Michael Rooker, Captain Boomerang. 7, yes.
Because the only others on the beach I can remember are Harley and Rick Flag, and they both survived.
Get away, yeah.
So 7. 7 deaths in...
But 6 because Weasel didn't die. So it is 6 or 7.
Wow.
In 10 minutes, if that. I don't even know if it was 10 minutes, to be perfectly honest with you.
It was a great scene, though. Because it was like, this is quite badass. They might take him on. And then one dies, another dies. Mongal is hanging off a helicopter, which ultimately kills Boomerang. And Javelin's just killed because the idiot is holding a javelin. TDK decides to get his arms shot up, and I do quite like how TDK doesn't actually get shot. His arms get shot, and then he bleeds out.
He's writhing about on the floor, yeah.
Weasel drowns because no one checked if Weasel could swim. It's such an incredible...
That's the only scene that I was saying, are there any scenes that are treated as like... This is a funny moment now. I think the Weasel's death was the only one I could think of in the film where it was like, this is funny now, laugh. Besides that, other jokes flowed very naturally.
I agree with you, but I think that one is very much just expectation. You expected them all to be badass. One of them's drowning. It's like, it's just that.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm saying it's just that is just the end. But yes, I've just checked. My introduction to Michael Rooker was in another James Gunn film, and that was Super, which is a very, very funny film, and I recommend you if you've not seen it. And again, Nathan Fillion is in that as well, which is why I'm like, he killed him off.
No, so the Suicide Squad film starts off with everyone dying, basically. And then Harley and Rick Flag are in a sticky situation. And then we get introduced to the second team, which is...
Which is the one in all the trailers and on the poster.
Bloodsport. Who's in the second team? You got Bloodsport, Ratcatcher 2.
My favorite character of the film, just saying. Ratcatcher 2 was my favorite.
King Shark, Polka Dot Man. Peacekeeper, Peacemaker.
Peacekeeper.
Wasn't it Peacemaker?
Is
I
it?
don't
I
think
thought it
it's
was
Peacekeeper. Is it Peacemaker or Peacekeeper? I don't think it's Peacekeeper. I think
No,
it's
it's Peacemaker, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're right.
Peacekeeper is a shotgun from Apex Legends.
It is Peacemaker. I don't know why I thought it was Peacekeeper.
Because he's
keeping the peace.
Well, I think Peacemaker is more him anyway. Because Peacekeeper.
I think I was thinking Peacemaker. I was thinking Pacemaker. Yeah, Peacemaker is Peacemaker. You're right. I don't know why I thought it was Peacekeeper.
Enough. No, Pacemaker and
who was it? Right, I lost track. Bloodsport, Ratcatcher, King Shark, Polka Dot Man, Peacemaker. That is the team.
Yeah, and then you get Harley and Rick Flag.
And then Harley and Rick Flag join, but that is the team initially.
And Milton at some point.
The thing I was saying, obviously, about the two superheroes, basically, the two villains being the same, is obviously the great scene, which is when Waller introduces Bloodsport and says he was grown up from the moment he was born to be a mercenary. He has the best. He can kill you with any weapon. Blah 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 blah. Then she introduces Peacemaker with the exact same introduction. It's not even like slightly different. It's the word for word same introduction.
Which at the time when I saw that, when she was first saying that, I was like, really? That's bad writing. And then she was like, and then they completely pointed it out, and I was like, I see. That's actually a very good moment.
She was like, yeah, I thought this was a team where people have unique abilities, and she's like, it is. He's better than you. I just really liked the way they said that there. Like, it's just because it is that kind of thing. There's so many people it's like you said, it's a very comic book thing to do, because there are so many people in the comics that have the exact same powers.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Marvel, I was recently reading a couple of things to do with Kang the Conqueror, and there are a few characters in there where it's like Space Phantom and all these people that they just morph into, like Space Phantom and kind of these other characters that, you know, morph into each other. And I thought, you are the exact same character. So for this to actually address it, because then essentially you're also saying Deadshot's the same, and maybe even in a way Deathstroke vaguely.
Yeah, Deathstroke does have superhuman strength though, so it is a bit.
But they kind of all fall into that same
mercenary.
I have a mask and I'm a mercenary kind of category, and it's kind of like, what is the difference between any of you? So I did really like that. But Peacemaker as well, having his shtick above that as well, being like, I will have peace whatever the cost.
I'll make peace.
I really liked that as a concept, because he's like, essentially he's not got evil intentions, because he does want peace, but the way he goes about them and the result of that is where the evilness comes from.
Like, he's incredibly misguided. He's basically Captain America,
but gone wrong.
Yeah, it's like what Captain America probably could have been if Steve Rogers wasn't Captain America. And it's very interesting that. And speaking of Peacemaker, actually, I do think John Cena was one of the standouts for this, because you were speaking about it yesterday.
Yeah, something we were saying yesterday, because we actually saw it together, though the fact we're separate, even though the fact we're separate now in separate counties, we did unite to watch this. And I was saying, I've always been very hesitant against wrestlers turned actors, because I'm always like, you're a wrestler, stop pretending you can act. And it's the reason I don't like. I'm a very famously, most people who know me know that I can't stand The Rock, and I really do not like him. And when he's trying to do acting, I'm going, stop it. Stop doing that. You're a wrestler. And there's the only other two people that have managed to succeed to break through that barrier for me are Dave Bautista and John Cena.
Gunn.
And James Gunn, yes, the famous wrestler. John Cena, because I was thinking both as a result of James Gunn, who it's like he knows we're looking at them going, you're just a wrestler. Like, he knows that's how most people look at them, but he goes, yeah, and they can play a cheesy character, but I will make you like them. And I feel that's what he's done with John Cena in it, because I was like, really, John Cena? Really? But I've come away from it going, because we know that he's getting a spin-off series. I came away from it thinking, okay, I'm interested to see that spin-off series before. Now, I wasn't before, but after seeing the film, I am now.
I think John Cena is a very nice person as well. And in reality, he's known for, I'm pretty statistics wise, I think he's done the most Make-A-Wish charity things of any person. Like he's done, like he is a very good, nice person in real life. So I'm glad he's like, he's done a film now. Like I think he's been good in other films like Bumblebee, but he's done like a big film now where it's been like, he's quite good, you know? And I like that. And in this film, I think he was a very, very good choice because it's that he's playing this cheesy character and quite burly, and it's like it really fit with him being him. Same with Drax, played by Dave Bautista. It feels like these kind of characters were somewhat made for these actors in a weird way. It's very, very interesting that.
Yeah, saying about John Cena being a nice guy. It was something Peter, because I was saying Peter Capaldi's press for this film has been amazing. Some of the stuff he's been able to say, but there's something that Peter Capaldi said about working on this film is he said it was great, and the names he said he most loved working with. He said it was great to just hang out with John, David, Idris, and Margot. They're the people that Capaldi has specified as being like really nice people on set. Just those
Screw the
four.
others.
Yeah, Capaldi's like going, didn't like the rest of you, but you four were amazing.
I mean, he probably didn't really get much time to hang out with Nathan Fillion. He was killed.
I doubt they were even there on the same day.
But yeah, no, that really kind of says it for you there, because Peter Capaldi's, he wouldn't associate himself with people who aren't nice. So there you go. But who else have we got on the list? Bloodsport, actually. Idris Elba. I think Idris Elba was a great protagonist because I think he's the closest we get to a protagonist for this film. I think he was.
He's I think, the person we really follow. He's the main character, I'd say.
Yes. I think he's very, very good in this, actually. I think he's brilliant. And I really do like Bloodsport's weapons are a part of his armor and how they can connect and build into something bigger and more powerful depending on the situation. That was a very interesting, I wouldn't say gimmick, because I think it was more of those abilities were very interesting for that character. And Idris Elba plays the character very well. And I just really quite liked him.
And then beyond the human, because I'm saying, like, my big criticism with the film was that I didn't feel like I kind of really loved anybody and didn't connect with them. But on the odd occasion where I did feel like I said, I really liked Peacemaker, but I don't mean I connect with Peacemaker. I just like Peacemaker as a concept, essentially. But one of the few people that I was able to connect with generally was Bloodsport, because of the scene where his daughter comes to see him in prison and she goes, I stole something. And you think most parents in this situation would be like, what are you doing? You need to be on the... And he's like going, and you got caught? And he's like going off and he's telling her how to steal things and what to steal. I thought, that's great. This film did a great job, I thought, a lot of reminding us that these aren't heroes. Because the problem you get with Suicide Squad is you get villains who are doing good things, essentially, even though that's really debatable in this film.
Well, no, it's debatable in all Suicide Squad stuff, because
I don't think it really was in
the government want them to do.
Yeah, but in Suicide Squad, it felt very much that it was just villains doing a hero thing. I remember thinking that at the time. Like, I can't really see why you didn't just use heroes for this. Besides
in the first one, I will agree with you 100% there. Yes, in the first Suicide Squad film,
and in the other Suicide Squad that I know is from the Arrow series. I think it was Arrow. It might have been another one. It was probably Arrow. I think Captain Cold was on the team and some other people. I very vaguely remember it. But then that always felt like, you have Arrow, Flash, and the Legends of Tomorrow and all those people. You could use them. Mm-hmm. It never felt like it needed something for the Suicide Squad specifically. I don't think anybody ever died on that squad. Not that I can think of. They're doing this one, but this
it's definitely film, the Suicide Squad. Like that's
this film is very much the Suicide Squad, and it very much felt like they aren't doing good things. But one thing that this film did very, very well, the best of those incarnations. I've not got a very good history of the Suicide Squad, basically, but it did the best it did of those incarnations was reminding us these aren't good people in the way of like Idris was doing that with his daughter. You got later on, like Polka Dot Man saying that he kills people because he thinks they're all his mum and all these things. Like it did a very good job.
You got King Shark who almost eats someone else on the team. It's
Yeah, there were a lot of occasions where it was like going, yeah, these aren't good people. They are bad guys. In a normal film, they would be the bad guy that we'd be facing down, and you'd be
Yes.
going down with that person. But here, we'll make you
There's
like them, but they are not good people.
there's simply the lesser of two evils in this film. That's exactly what it is. Apart from Ratcatcher too, I'd say, because she does feel very much like just a victim of circumstance, to be honest.
Yeah, she'd be the kind of person who would be the villain in a comic because she's probably using the rats to do a bad thing. But it's kind of like, I can understand why you've
Mm.
done that. Because I think she says the reason she was in prison was because of a bank robbery. I think that's
And
what
they
she says in the
classed
film, doesn't
the
it?
rats as weapons.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, which
So I
isn't
thought,
even that bad. Just stealing. It's not that big
mm,
of a thing. Unless we find out she murdered everyone involved. Then I'd probably be like, okay, bad guy. But she is definitely, I'd say, the most good of the team. Because although Polka Dot Man was very much tortured by his mum, he still burns people to death, to dust with his acidic polka dots.
and he does kind of, I'm sure he alludes a few times to that he just loves killing people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure he says that quite a few times. Like,
He's not really, no, he's not a good guy. But it's very interesting because it does. I agree with you there. They show us that these characters are bad guys and evil, and it's so interesting because I think back to some of the other Suicide Squad stuff I've done. I can mention some comics, but I'll mention another animation because it's easy for me to compare moving pictures.
moving things, yes.
There is an animation called Batman Assault on Arkham. It says Batman, but for the majority of the film, you are following a Suicide Squad version of that. It's got Harley, it's got Deadshot, it's got King Shark in it actually, but it's got Killer Frost, Black Tiger, Boomerang. That's kind of the Suicide Squad. But the point is, you're following the Suicide Squad going into Arkham Asylum to basically kill the Riddler. That's their whole thing. So it's very interesting that so you're following them and you're like, these guys aren't doing anything good here, but they're still working for Waller. And it's purely because Waller wants them to cover up something the government has done. And then Batman gets involved. And then you don't follow Batman. It's very interestingly done. You follow the squad, and then Batman literally just imagine you're driving along a road and Batman just T-bones them just out of nowhere. Just, hello, I'm here to beat you up now. And it's a very, it really puts into perspective that, but in that, obviously, you have a good guy, you have Batman, but it very much shows that the Suicide Squad, they aren't ever really doing anything for the betterment of mankind. They're doing it purely for Waller and the American government. They are their
And it's
squad.
that's even represented in the ending of this film, where obviously they've got the footage of Staro, and they have the option of uploading that and exposing the government and showing them for what they've actually done, or destroying it as Waller intends. But instead, he does this kind of halfway thing where he says, "I'm not going to upload it, but I'm not going to destroy it. I'm going to use it for our own benefit." And that's kind of like, that's when another moment when you kind of go, yeah, these aren't the good guys. Because if this was the good guys, you'd get the Winter Soldier ending where all the records are out in the public. That's it. We're going to topple you. But they don't do that because that's not going to benefit Bloodsport.
No.
But
And
what
even
will
Harley
benefit?
kind of disagrees with that because of the fact she was kind of friends with Rick Flag. It adds that layer of, yes, they're all bad guys, but Harley's a bad guy, but she's probably the most tortured of the bad guys. So she's the most, not the most redeemable, but she's got chance to be redeemed. Whereas Bloodsport's purely just out for his daughter and his own gain, which
Yeah, and
is
that's that way of telling us that they aren't. I know they do a whole thing in the film about like, oh, who's friends with each other, but they kind of do say we can be friends, but it's not going to work out
Hmm.
because I'm going to go against you if it benefits me, and that's the binding thing that works with the Suicide Squad as opposed to other teams that we know, like the Justice League or the Avengers or the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're all very much like we work together, whereas
yeah,
this one it's like we'll work together. Wink, wink.
but purely because I got a bomb in the back of my neck.
Yeah.
And speaking of bombs, you see them devolve from that team of working together the moment Waller can't control them. Because when their comms are jammed, I never actually picked up on this when I was watching it, but in hindsight, the reason they all fall apart and Peacemaker goes kind of ape goes to town on everyone is because Waller can't keep them in check. They're still doing what they were sent to do, but they're able to break some rules. So I just find it quite fascinating. Imagine if Waller could still communicate with them, would she have just killed everyone apart from Peacemaker?
Yeah, because they had no clue what was going on. That's a good point. Yeah.
But it is, I think, and that's again the film knowing what it is. It's not, these are bad guys. You're going to enjoy watching what the bad guys do, but they're not good guys. But big thing I did quite like about this film is just the fact we got to see Staro in live action. Staro, like what a world we live in where the Warner Brothers execs signed off on allowing Staro being in live action film.
Because it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's a giant starfish that just blobs about and then shoots things out of its armpits. It's completely ridiculous, but it works and it makes sense. And I was never like going, what is this? It's not like, we were yesterday we were making a few comparisons to Guardians of the Galaxy 2 in the sense that I kind of preferred Guardians of the Galaxy 2 over this because I felt like I connected a bit more with the characters. But I remember seeing that film for the first time and going, why is there a giant Pac-Man? What are you doing? Whereas I never did that with this. Why is there a giant starfish? What? I was like, yeah, there's starfishes. Get over it. And I was completely on board with it.
I just really, I agree with you there. When it did come to that comparison between Guardians of the Galaxy and Suicide Squad, I would actually prefer rewatching this to Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I prefer the first Guardians of the Galaxy to this, but I do prefer this to the second one because I just do. I can go into detail, but we're not here to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy.
No, but my big thing, we can park it here then, is I didn't feel like I really connected with anybody in this film. I felt like vaguely Bloodsport in that scene with his daughter. Ratcatcher I liked because I'd say she's the only person I genuinely connected with, and then the scene with Taika Waititi, who, built up. Taika's going to be in this film, and he was in it for one line, which was my favorite line in the film. And I loved that whole moment with that music and all the rats coming. That was my favorite moment in the entire film, where he says, rats are the lowest and most hated creature on this earth. If they can find purpose, then so can we. I thought that was a really nice line there. Besides that, it was kind of just like, here's a character. There you go. It was like, yep.
Do you like them? Do you like they're dead?
And it was like, but what do you want me to do about that? And yes, a lot of that is because a lot of that team going, here's a character, he's dead. Here's a character, he's dead. But a lot of the time, it just felt like people were kind of being introduced, not on the sense of, here's a character you might like. It was in a character being introduced and going, here's a character who might die. And that's how it felt to me. It was like, even Polka Dot Man, I really liked him because it was David Dastmalchian, and I love David Dastmalchian. And the whole thing with his mum and everything was good. But it always kind of just felt like backstory. One of my notes that I wrote was backstory doesn't equal liking somebody. And just telling us where somebody comes from isn't enough to make me go, okay, I'm invested in you as a character. It's like I said, the metaphor example I give to you is if I said, if I met you for the first time, just went, I'm from Nottingham, you'd be like, and tell me more about you. And it's like, that's the only information you're getting, but you must like me now. And that's kind of how this film felt to me in some places. And I haven't, besides liking characters conceptually, like Peacemaker, I don't find myself really attached to anybody. There's nobody I'm going, give me more of that.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying. And I can see why that is. For me, I tried my best to get attached to characters because I knew they were going to die, but it's just like, I tried to enjoy them as much as I could when they were on screen. And when they did die, it's like, I saw that coming and I wasn't really shocked by any deaths apart from Rick Flagg's, because that death was quite gnarly actually. But when it comes to all the other deaths, I wasn't really surprised. Like Polka Dot Man's, I was like, you are going to get smushed in 3, you're smushed. And it like that, I saw that coming out from a mile off, but I still felt like I was connected to them a little bit at the very least. And be that because I was trying my best to kind of connect with them because I was just like, I'm really enjoying this. Or was that because I'm a huge DC fan and I know of most of these characters before I saw them on screen. That could have been a factor.
I think that's a big problem with what stopped me as well, because I was saying to you yesterday, I was looking at, I knew Harley, I knew Captain Boomerang, I knew Rick Flag, but only from the other Suicide Squad film. I knew King Shark, and I knew Thinker. Besides that, I was looking at the team going, well, I knew Polka Dot Man as well from Legend, but I was looking at the rest of the team going, who are you? Who are any of you people? Like, I've never heard, not even vaguely heard of you, at least with a lot of Marvel films, even if I don't know necessarily the character, I've at least heard of these people. And these were very much like, I have no cultural knowledge of you whatsoever. So the dead, I'm like, sure, whatever, move on with my life. So I think that's something that stopped me from enjoying it as well. That it's great that he used F-list characters, if not X-list characters in some cases. But the problem with doing that is we go, so what?
Yeah. But I think a lot of the F-list characters had to be there because I don't think it'd be great if they let James Gunn kill off some of the biggest names. Be like, we could have used some of those.
But I think there's some of them though that I think you should look at, because if you look at, I was saying this about Harley as well. I can't, looking at the upcoming DC slate, there's nothing that Harley can really slot into. Aquaman 2, why would she be in that? Shazam 2, why would Harley be there? You know, all these films that are coming up, and like, there's so many people in this film, because I do strongly think that Harley should have died in this. But there are so many films that are coming up that I think there's villains there you're probably never going to use. So just stick them in this and kill them. Like, yeah, they're there, but you're never going to have a chance to use them again because you have no plans to use them again.
Maybe they do have plans to use them again. Maybe like a Suicide Squad sequel where you get Deadshot and Bloodsport, right?
Like, there's so many Batman villains that we're probably never going to get in a Batman film. Like, say if you had somebody like Mad Hatter, for example, stick him in this, kill him. That's fine with that, because you know he's never going to get his own solo film, is he?
I mean, I would have been fine with them killing off Mad Hatter, Killer Moth as well. They could have even had the Riddler.
Firefly, put him in it.
They could have killed off Riddler. I don't know how he'd fit in, but they could have done. Firefly, I think, would have been a very nice fitting in for this, because he's got a very unique power set, and you could have killed him off because it's not like we're starting early on in the DCU either. Like, this DCU is set like 20 years into Batman's career, that kind of thing. So you could have all these characters which Batman has and just be like, here they are. Yeah, no, there are definitely a certain amount of, like, even Captain Cold could have fit in.
Captain Cold, I was on the Cold theme. I was about to say Mr. Freeze. You could have even put in this.
You could have. I wouldn't have killed him off though, because he does.
I would have, because then it would have had some weight to it.
Actually, yeah.
Because it'd been like, oh, that's cool. That's Mr. Freeze. Are they going to do him properly? He's dead. What? I didn't see that coming. That's how that would have felt. Whereas a lot of them is just like, who's Javelin? And then by the time you've turned to your friend to go, who is Javelin? You look back and he's dead. And the things like that, he's like, oh, that doesn't mean anything.
I do get what you're saying, yeah. Because they've used all these F-listers. It's like, even if you did get attached to them, you know they are going to die. And I agree with you there. I wasn't scared for any of these deaths, and I wasn't shocked by any of them, apart from Rick Flag's. Only really because Rick Flag had been in a previous film, played by Joel Kinnaman, and it was be like, they've used him again, so are they going to use him again? Is he going to be one of these staples for the Suicide Squad films? And also because I really do like Joel Kinnaman as an actor. It's like, that shocked me because they killed him for all these reasons, but they're very kind of personal to me. To you, Rick Flag's death probably meant nothing, and I know for a fact it did mean nothing.
I, as a character of Rick Flag, I said this to you yesterday, he's just a bloke in a t-shirt to me. Like, I'm like, what is your specific skill set? You don't even have a cool name. You're just, hi, I'm Rick. So what do you want me to do about that? It's kind of like, so when he's dead, I said to you, it's great when he gets his heart punctured, because that was the only film in a very, very gory film. That was the only thing that made me go, But besides from that, it was kind of just like, it felt like the film kind of drawed attention to it. To go, Rick Flag's dead now. But I was kind of like going, yes, so what? Move on. Like, I was like, give me the next scene. I was like, I'm not bothered. And it was like, it's that thing. It's like, just because he was in another film, that doesn't give me, it's the same thing. Backstory doesn't equal warming me to them. And it was saying again, this guy was in another film, and it's like, I'm sure he's done lots of films. What's your point? And it's kind of like, it's not enough for me. like you said with actors, the only going into this film, there were only 2 people that I said, I know they're going to die, but I'd quite like it if they survive. There was only 2, and they were Polka Dot Man because of David Desmalchin, and The Thinker because of Peter Capaldi. Besides them, I was like, anybody can die. I'm not going to have any effect. They're not going to have any effect on me unless that character really grows on me. And besides Ratcatcher, nobody did that.
Yeah. It's just kind of it is that. But again, this whole argument here, I think, is a result of the film knowing what it is as well. It does this being these all villains are going to die. It's the Suicide Squad. No one's really safe. It's that whole thing, but then it can't really connect you to them because you know they're not safe. It
is an eternal loop, isn't it? It's like going, we want you to be attached to them, but we want you to know they are going to die. It's like, yeah, but I can't be attached to them if I know they're going to die. So it's cycle that just goes round and round.
The only way to solve that would be to use characters that are extremely well known, but that then creates the problem of you can't then use that character later on, which maybe that'd be great shock value. But what if you have a great idea for a Firefly film? I don't know if you do, but if you do,
that's why there's villains on that level where it's like, you're not quite, in last week when we said about in Batman 66 that we said, your big pillars are Penguin, Riddler, Joker, Catwoman. They're your big pillars. The people who are below that level, to me, they could have been in this and they could have been killed off. A lot of people I think there's probably a lot of villains you probably could have used from the CW shows because a lot of people know them from them shows, and you could have killed them and that would have had some weight maybe. But then now you said that, I'm trying to think, well, who, Aidan? And I was suddenly thinking, I've repressed my all memory of those films.
TV
but
show.
I think, like you said, but those people of a TV show, yeah. But besides the people we said earlier, they're the people I'm still saying put Mr. Freeze in it and kill him. But
yeah. But basically the point is, no matter which option you pick, there is going to be some sort of problem with it.
And that is why I do strongly believe that Harley should have died in this, because like I said, she's had a nice arc across 3-4 films, however many she's done. There doesn't seem to be any way she's going to slot in the future. She probably will, but I don't see anything on the current slate that makes me think Harley will be in that. And I think in a film, the big thing I think is that in a film where death means nothing, Harley's death would have meant something. And I think that'd have been quite a to us to go, yeah, death at the start to go, yeah, death means something because these people are really dead. Wow. Then for a while, it's been so many other deaths that it's like, he's dead. But then if Harley died, it'd be like, oh wow, she's dead.
Yeah, if Harley did die, it would have had that shock factor. It would have. But it's Harley Quinn, and I would have rathered, instead of that option, I would have rather they had a different character in there who is of that same level, but they killed them instead. Because the thing about Harley in the DCEU, she is probably one of the strongest, if not the strongest element that is still going. And to kill her off would, not a waste, but if we have like with the Avengers, you've got Robert Downey, then you've got Chris Evans, and you've got all of these actors and characters that are all really well done, then you kill off 3 of them, you've still got 6 left. Then you can do that. But I don't think killing Harley off now would have really been a good time. I think for shock value and for the film, and yes, she's had her arc, it would work. But the problem is she's not standing next to 3 other people who are of that same level. If you get rid of her, you've just got rid of Margot Robbie playing Harley Quinn. And now it's like, yeah, but who's left? That's what I think. And I think for me, ultimately, the main thing is we've seen this Harley interact with Batman literally 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes of screen time together. And it does feel like we're at the end of the line for this Harley. But for me, in my mind, I know what we could have had. We could have had more of the Harley and Joker, and then Batman's involved with that. And then you could have a bit of redeeming Harley.
Anything with that, though, I think, because Margot Robbie is such an asset to the DCEU, I'd have said kill her here, but that doesn't mean this has to be her last appearance, because then you can go back and then you can say, yeah, you've not got Ben Affleck anymore. But we always have we had Ben Affleck very much kind of very late into the Batman career. So give us a younger, just recast him. Give us a younger Batman, but that's the same version. Give us the Joker, but if you don't want to use Jared Leto, do somebody kind of similar, but before he got the silly tattoos. And you can have Harley, but Harley that's just met the Joker.
Yeah.
And you can use Margot Robbie and for that kind of thing. And I think that'd be good because then that's a new Harley story. Whereas this point in Harley's life,
We are at the end of...
post Joker, it's kind of like, where does she go from here?
There are loads of comics where we see what it's like for Harley post Joker, but for the actual film universe, you can't really you can't really go back from this film to another kind of Birds of Prey film, really, can you? Because you've kind of gone the big...
Or another thing that's just come to me as well that I've done. All this is just coming to me right now. Even the thing about flashing back to Batman there, but the thing that this film didn't end like it was setting anything up, I don't think. Besides, like Weasel kind of going, I'm still alive, and then Peacemaker, but we know that's going to be its own series. There was nothing that felt like, here's something to look forward to in the future. Something you could have done, though, is you've had Suicide Squad is Joker and Harley. Birds of Prey is they've broken up. This is Harley dealing with it. This was the aftermath of Harley moving on and what to do from there. But you need to have something in between those that connect them up to something that sets up for the next thing. No, there wasn't really much between Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey, but we kind of just moved on. Birds of Prey very much did set up like, I'm going to carry on going forward without the Joker because I've mastered that life without the Joker now. So that did set something up for the future. Here's another thing that could have just came to me. Somebody you've mentioned, Harley and Ivy. Do you see where I'm going with this one now?
Yes.
Somebody you could have put on the Suicide Squad, Poison Ivy. How should have fit in, I don't know, but let's stick her in there.
I mean, Poison Ivy would just level the field. She's incredibly powerful if the comic writers actually let her.
Yeah, but let's say it's, let's stick Poison Ivy on this team as well. Maybe in place of Ratcatcher, even though I liked Ratcatcher, but maybe they could just work together, whatever.
I think Ivy would have, yeah, I'm with you.
They meet each other. Harley's moved on from the Joker. She's realized she doesn't want boyfriends anymore because they're all arseholes like the president. But there's this certain person called Ivy now. Set up for the next film. Harley's got a new partner. It's Ivy. She thinks it's going to go well, but they're equally as evil. like, well, not Joker level, but you know what I'm saying. I think that'd be a nice way to set it up by not setting anything up for Harley in the future. That just makes me come away from it going, she should have died.
Yeah. If I had the option between the two of those, give me another Harley thing with Harley and Ivy, because I'm 100% on board for that, actually, because we are very much at the point in Harley's life in the DCEU where it is she's moved on. Ivy's time. That's where we're at. And I think we've got here a bit goddamn quickly, mind you. Like, we didn't even really get much of Harley and Joker. We've got here like that. But what's next is Harley and Ivy, really. And I think that's a great idea.
There's so many things with the DCEU, especially, so many things you can wish for. That just means restructuring so much. It's like, for me, in this film, you had the chance. It's not even like, even by saying you needed to introduce Poison Ivy, that's a whole new character. And I said that might mean you have to get rid of Ratcatcher, which means, but then that would take it away because I really liked Ratcatcher. And that's a whole big restructuring thing that takes, but we literally have the scene where Harley's floating in the eye of Staro. And I thought there was going to be a moment where she just closes her eyes and she's dead. I really thought that was coming. That's a really minor tweak to make, because then she only appears for one scene after that. Just change that scene and she doesn't have to be in it. That is a big emotional weight for that film, which requires very little restructuring. And it was there. It was literally presented to us, and then they went into a different direction. So to me, that would have provided emotional weight to this film, which I don't think that this film lacked. It had stakes because people were dying, but there were no emotional stakes. I was going, no, don't kill that guy. Don't kill that guy. It's just like, oh, he's dead. Whatever.
You're just a sociopath. That's the point here.
But he just didn't give me the chance to warm to anybody.
But are there other ways they could have done that instead of just... It's the theorizing. They could have done this, should have done that. And there are loads of different ways they could have done something. They were very close to killing Harley, and that probably is the easiest when it comes to changes to do that death. But there are others which I maybe would have preferred, or different characters. But ultimately, I really did enjoy this film. And given its grievances, like stuff which could have done differently that I would have preferred, it is still just the best DCU film.
I did really enjoy it. Like, there are things that I think, oh, you should have done that, you should have changed that, and then just things that either just didn't work with me. Like, I'm gonna say I wasn't a fan of the subtitles that came up. Like, you know, when they went,
I'm with you. I had to remember that.
I was trying to think of examples.
The title card where it says Operation something something.
Yes,
then it
because there were
blows
some
away.
that I didn't mind. Ones when it came up like 8 minutes later, 8 minutes earlier, it written in the clouds. Sure, go for that one. The bit when it said 3 days earlier and it was written in the foam across the toilet, I thought I'm fine with that. It was the things when it was like going Operation whatever it said, and then it scribbled out and said Operation Harley. I thought I don't like that. And there was a bit where the generals was talking, and it cut just before he finished his sentence, and then written in the mud it said, "Bring me the heads of the Suicide Squad," or whatever it said. And I remember thinking, I don't like that. To do something like that, you needed to do it way more and have to like kind of give it that Edgar Wright kind of snappy feel. Just go, whoosh, whoosh, here's this. Whoosh, whoosh. It didn't really do it. It gave us like 3 of those kind of subtitles, and they just felt out of place. And like when they were in Jotunheim, and then the word Jotunheim was written in the bit across the roofs, and then it kind of panned into it as if that was actually written. I thought, I don't really like that.
That one was actually my favorite one. I did quite like that.
No, I just wasn't. I don't know why. I feel like if you're doing that kind of thing, that needs to be across the film, really
and consistent, because it
consistently across the film, where it's like, here's this. Like, so when things are filmed very much comic booky style, where you get like, I did like the way the subtitles was kind of written around their heads as if they were like speech bubbles. I did like that kind of thing. But when you're doing it so infrequently, it's like, are you trying to make a deal out of this, or have you just had this idea that you've done a few to see if it will work? It's like they did a few in the edit and went, oh, let's scatter them out, let's see if they work. And James Gunn's gone, yeah, I like them, but they haven't done more. And it's like, if you're gonna do that, make it a real stylized thing rather than just kind of a standard film with a few stylized things thrown in. It was like, do it or don't do this halfway thing.
I did quite like them, but I think the main thing with them, the problem, if there is a problem with them, is the fact it is like 8 months earlier. Meanwhile, next time, so you got all these time jump ones, and then you got the location ones, and then you've got the act ones where it's the Operation Harley.
If you're gonna do
stick to one of them,
do one to give us a time jump. And shout out to Peter Capaldi just for being Peter Capaldi.
Yep.
And basically playing the Doctor with dirty jokes and swear words. It was just brilliant to see.
Peter Capaldi's as great as ever. In it as much as we expected him to be in it, but he was great.
Exactly the amount. I didn't expect him to be in it any more or any less. If he was in it any less, I'd have been disappointed. If he'd been in it any more, I'd have been surprised. It was the exact amount I thought he'd be in it. Just seeing him there was a scene I noticed where, because I just, obviously, if you listen to the Doctor Who podcast, you know he's my favorite Doctor. I just love him. So there was a bit where they're all walking out of that mist, and you got the lineup of all the Suicide Squad. I was only looking at him, and like Rick Flag and Harley were having this moment. I wasn't even looking at them. I was just looking at him, because I was like, that's Peter Capaldi on a cinema screen in a major blockbuster film. That is just amazing. And just seeing him just being really menacing again was just really nice. And then just effing and swearing at everybody, calling people idiots, and just saying, this is your effing fault. I was like, it's like, oh, I don't know if I feel kind of uncomfortable hearing him swear. But then I thought, actually, no, go for it. Do this. And it was just brilliant. And I think that's really all I have to say about this film.
Yeah. One final thing I just want to mention. Staro was one of the first ever DC, not the first ever. He was the first ever DC thing. I'm almost certain about that. Like the Justice League came together to fight Staro. That was the first thing. But I don't remember much of the Staro.
That's quite nice them you doing that then, because the first time Well, I think actually the first time the Avengers assembled, it was to fight the Hulk, actually. But I believe like the first villain that the Avengers actually fought was Loki. Then that's what they did for the first Avengers film. So in the way by going, this is the Suicide Squad. Because I do like the way they didn't call this Suicide Squad 2. They just called it the Suicide Squad. Like, no, this is the Suicide Squad, actually. Then to have them fight Staro is kind of like their defining mission, like it was for the Justice League. Then I quite like that. It's quite poetic.
But no, ultimately with this film, I really enjoyed it. And
I've given it 4 stars on Letterboxd.
Yes. Letterboxd.
Letterboxd.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Letterboxd. Not use it.
I've always heard it. I've always heard it called Letterbox. Letterboxd.
Letterboxd.
Rename it. But ultimately, yeah, good film. Enjoyed it. I would recommend it to any comic book fan.
I recommend it and I enjoyed it.
I
will rewatch it, but I'm in no hurry to.
No, I'd even say if you're not a huge comic book fan, but you've enjoyed some of James Gunn's work or you enjoy some of the MCU and you're just looking for something funny maybe to watch, put it on.
I think if you're a James Gunn fan, you have to watch it. Yes. I even say I said this at the start, I think if you're a Tarantino fan, watch it because it does that same kind of violence that he does. So I think if you like those kind of things, watch it and you probably get a kick out of it. Because I said this to you yesterday. This film to me was like Marvel's older brother. It was like that typical thing you hear from like the 80s when someone's older brother would show them horror films and slasher films and be like, yeah, never mind all that nonsense you watch. This is Jason. This is it felt like that to me. It felt like it's a silly comic book film. But it's darker. Not darker in the sense that it's literally darker as DC usually does, and everything's miserable and everybody's really emo in it. Now, wasn't any of that, but there was real violence, like violence, and that was nice.
Yes, yeah, and I'd probably give it. Let's think, 7 or 8 out of 10. You know, probably a 7.
That's what I said. I said 7 or 8.
Because at the time, because yesterday I was like, I really enjoyed, like, you know how you feel when you come out of a cinema. God, I love that. And then you sit with it and you're like, yeah, but it could have been better. So 7 out of 10, I think I'm sitting at. And just kind of to round this all off, I'd say, when it comes to future DC, if there are any DC execs listening, because they might be fan. If you are, hire us. What are you doing? But but also just, I think the main thing for DC is, as we've seen with Joker, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and James Gunn's Suicide Squad, just let the creatives do their thing.
Creative control is more beneficial to the DC universe than continuity and canon.
Yep.
Yes. So, what are we doing next week?
Well, Aiden, next week we are going to watch Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker.
Okay, you've made a decision now, have you?
Yes. Don't ruin the magic. I had a plan from the start.
Yes, definitely. And I wasn't expecting you to say Dark Knight Returns just then. And then your lips then went, buh. And I was like, shouldn't I be going, duh? No? Okay.
We're watching Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker next week. And yes, the reason for that, if you want to know, is because we can talk a bit about Harley in that actually, and we can talk about the darker side of Batman the Animated Series, which I did touch on a little bit in this episode.
Very good.
Aiden's bored, so we'll go now. But thank you very much for listening, everyone, and watching.
And join us next week. Same bat time.
Same bat channel.
Thank you for listening.